Welcome to the Scale Up Valley podcast, where we build the best founders and investors to help you build your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest is a very special one. His name is Tim Veira, an investor, entrepreneur, very well known in Portugal, where I come from, because of his participation on Shark Tank, and of course, because of his vision about his new project, the Brave Generation Academy, that he's really passionate about. But Tim, for the ones worldwide that don't know so much about you like I do and all our Portuguese peers, let us know more about Tim.
Okay, well, nice to be on Scale Up Valley. Thanks a lot, Mark, for the invite. Good
pleasure.
to see you reaching the world. Wonderful. Yeah, so who am I? I'm a positive person, always been. Someone who's got a lot more failures than successes, but I think without the failures, I wouldn't have had the successes. So I'm good with that. I'm a family man. I've got 3 kids, 4 dogs, a wonderful wife. And I'm lucky enough to be working something that I'm super passionate about now in education. I've lived in various countries around the world, connected to various countries around the world. I believe that we're living an exciting time in this world, and that we need to find the positive things and not fear the unknown. I've learned to work on things that I can change and to accept those that I can't. So that's who I am.
Great introduction. And for the ones who want to know more about you, Tim, there is a very detailed background about you on LinkedIn and on your personal website, timveira.com. So you can see all the projects where Tim is involved. Definitely, that's why we introduced him as a founder, entrepreneur, and investor. He can't resist always to support new projects that can make a difference. So let's start from the beginning. You built a media group for almost 20 years. So it started in 2004. Next year will be 20 years of special edition. That's the name of the media group. Mainly with presence in Angola, Mozambique. Today is a group of companies. Would you like to talk a little bit more about your experience starting your life as entrepreneur? This was your first company, or maybe your second, third? How did it work?
Yeah, so definitely not my first. It was probably around my 5th or 6th or 7th company, more around there. I went into a market when I went into Angola, and I wanted to start new. I'd basically set up something in South Africa. It went very, very well, and then it didn't. I basically lost it because I was young, lots of ego, and I thought I would be able to, buy my competitors, but my competitors managed to crush me. But, you learn from that, and I did learn from that, and that was amazing. And I wanted a new start, I wanted a new company, a new country. I wanted to get into something that that I had passion for. And I decided to go into problem solving. Okay. And problem solving means marketing, means doing whatever it takes for a company to grow. Okay. And how could I help? And I think that's what I love. I love working with people on finding solutions, on listening to their problems, and then finding solutions for their problems. I prefer problems to solutions. I'm one of those that when you've got a problem, I'm interested. When you don't have a problem, well, I can't do much, So we set up what is known now as Special Edition Holding. I started it with a partner, with Nuno Traguedo. And together, he was a more ops man. I was a more relationship man. And we really grew it. It still employs, over 400 people based in Angola. It's still probably the most influential, let's say, media business in Angola in terms of billboards, printing, research, events, etc. So still running, people that have been with us for over 15 years, an amazing CEO in Ode Perez. And really the truth is that now doesn't need me. It's one of those things where I'm more a chairman, and I'm only there for when they need me, really, I support it. But in the beginning, it was an amazing adventure. It really, really was. We were in a country that needed everything. So we were supplying everything. We were in a country that at that moment, you could have easily become a corrupt company, because it has happened to many companies. And we were lucky enough that we set up a partnership with Capital Partners, which is basically the Norwegian sovereign fund backing. So it kept us super in line, and that was exciting to see how the values of the Norwegian sovereign fund were always put in this place. And for us, that was also great. So it made us have this DNA of growth in a country that we had to work hard to make our dollars, because there was easy ways of making dollars. All right, but that's why we still exist. That's why we went through COVID without having to fire people, with being able to carry on with salaries. We've never missed salaries in a country that even the big companies miss salaries. So I'm very proud of what we did with Special Edition Holding, but it really was everybody together to provide solutions to issues in that market. Okay, it's now a mature company. It's a company now that it basically runs by itself, with its CEO, with the teams, with the Eduardos and the Georges in digital print, etc. So really, really proud. And for me, once I understood that my passion wasn't there anymore, that's, I basically moved out and started with the next adventures, which was starting a few things in Portugal, starting with raspberry farming and then investing, etc., etc.
Right. So let's keep there. So, of course, the audience might be wondering why your connection to Africa. We just learned about the Norwegian sovereign fund participation. I know that the Nordics are very well positioned in Africa. We always have a vision of the huge potential of Africa, but it seems that the entrepreneurial ecosystems are always a little bit ahead in other regions. I know that Africa is in a very important boom, but why did your team work so well related to Africa, and why did you develop so very good businesses in Africa?
So I'm born in Africa. My grandparents were born in Africa, so we've got a long history in Africa. And I really believe Africa is going to be very, very important in the future for the world.
Yeah.
And, for me, even now with our educational program, I see Africa as the place that we want to invest and the place where we want to make the most impact. Okay. I believe that Africa has gone through a tough and challenging story with leaders, etc. But I also believe that there's a lot of diaspora now coming back to Africa. There's a lot of talented people that want to, set up a camp in Africa. They're setting up companies. They're setting up foundations. They're setting up political parties that I think will start to help becoming more transparent and accountable to their citizens. So Africa is looking good. Africa's also got something which is amazing, which is a young population. And I think that's going to be a big resource, more than a lot of the other resources it has. It's this young population. It's also going to become very interesting because the whole world can be connected nowadays. You don't even have to be in Silicon Valley if you want to work with Silicon Valley. So as long as you've got the talents and the skills, you can, work from wherever you are and be there. And I think that with the world that is now becoming so controlled in a way, and in many developed countries, I think that opportunities are going to come in these developing countries. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, and let's call them real entrepreneurs who want to come and make the biggest change and the biggest impact, Africa is going to have a huge calling. Okay, and Africa has got a huge market. If you look at it, 53 countries and all these different markets. Obviously, there's problems in some of them, but even problems are an opportunity. So we've got to look at all of that. So I've always believed in Africa, and I think that Africa going forwards, it is going to become a real entrepreneurial ecosystem. Okay, because you can make a big impact. And I think that's what entrepreneurs want to do. They want to make impact. They want to create success and wealth and etc., but by doing something that allows their talents to flourish. And we become, in most of the world now, they're almost telling you not to use your talents. If you look at Europe, it's difficult, it's becoming just taxing, and almost telling you don't work, because the more you work, the more tax you pay. The more you work, the more bureaucracy you hit. The more you work, the more issues you have. So Africa is not like that. We need to work, and it's never really had a social system that looks after people. It's, if you don't work, you don't eat. So they're okay with that, and I think that's where it's going to become interesting. When we look around the world now, you look at all the problems in the US and in Europe and etc., where you think about Africa and you think, okay, we don't have power in some places, or we've got potholes, but maybe that's okay because I can still work and do my work. I can use my talents. So let me do that. So it's a funny world at the moment. You can be in a place that's got energy and good roads, but you can't use your talents, and they almost, trying to force you to become universal, get a universal salary kind of thing, and you can't use your talents. So Africa allows you that. So I think there's a big future.
I know that, and it is clear on your track record that you have a global mindset, but definitely I see there is always a very important angle, and you just explained it why. For your family reasons, and also for the potential that you see in Africa. But of course, we could mention the same reasons around other regions that are also developing so quickly as Latam or Southeast Asia, even India, Middle East nowadays, right? So those are all areas that are exploding in terms of growth, but definitely the ones who are very well positioned in Africa can make a huge difference, and also
and you mentioned it, South America, Southeast Asia, India. If you look at it, they're all very entrepreneurial mindsets, because if you don't have an entrepreneurial mindset, you don't have anything, so that's what's really interesting in those kind of regions. And I think those are the regions that are going to attract more and more entrepreneurs. And when they attract entrepreneurs, they attract talent. And when they attract talent, they'll attract money. They'll attract investment. And I think that's what's exciting about it. I really, really believe it is. And that's why, even with BGA now, we heavily invested into Africa. We're putting a lot of hubs into Africa. We've got our development director now at the moment in Bangalore, where we're opening our first hub in Bangalore.
Wow.
South America, we're looking at Mexico, how we can get the first ones going into Mexico, in Central America, into Costa Rica, and we've just opened Phuket, and we will open Bali, etc., etc. So those markets are really very important for us, because you're able to work and you're able to make an impact, and as I said, there's so much talent there, so much talent.
For the audience to follow us, Tim was just talking about this last project that started in 2020, the Brave Generation Academy, that we will cover more in detail in a minute or two. So still to cover a little bit of this, let's say not your first, but your main chapter in terms of building a generational company with almost 20 years. As you said, you needed to evolve from a founder to a CEO and to a chairman, right? So ideally, this will be the path of successful founders, entrepreneurs, the ones who will not give up and will try a second and a third or a fourth and a fifth, as you did, learn from their own mistakes, start everything from scratch, and be able to finally get to a moment that they say, or I want to keep building this business forever, which we know we just had a very well charismatic founder that kind of have this mindset. Naveiro from Delta, a very well-known company in Portugal, but was able to take care of the succession plan very well, but still very involved with getting to the company, being the public relations face of the company. We know that the majority of the entrepreneurs, after a certain number of years, have other interests and want to be involved with other projects, especially the ones who are more founder, entrepreneurially oriented, and then like to go into investor. How has been this transition of mindset, Tim, from going from an entrepreneur to a CEO and then to the investor? And I can see still today that you are still a combination of the three, right? So you are not only an entrepreneur, only a founder, only a CEO, only investor. I can see that you are helping others as an investor. You are being the CEO of your own company now, but also a founder of the company. So you needed to be able to position your art.
Yeah, I think, you know, we always look at it, and when we're starting something, we do business plans and we have a vision statement and a mission statement for a company, you know. And I think what I've always had is I've always had a business plan for me, for Tim Veira. You know, I looked at it and I thought,
awesome.
I want to work in things that are interesting for me. I want to add value. If I'm not adding value, I don't want to be there. You know, I know my weaknesses in my business plan, which is focus and doing things I don't like, I'm not good at. But the things that I do like, I'm very good at, you know. And I think we don't get told to do this business plan for ourselves. You know, we don't get told, listen, let's write down what are your values, what are your ethics, what will you not do, what do you have to look out for so that you don't do it by mistake, you know. And I think I was lucky enough to be able to do that from the beginning. And I think that helped me a lot because I sort of grew that DNA through my company, okay. This attitude of how we can do things. We solve problems. We don't stay stuck on problems. You know, we have a giving side of it. We work with all our competitors. We've never been one of these companies who don't. We always believe that if we make the market bigger, it's better for us as well. So it's always been that kind of an attitude. Okay. And I think for when you look at life projects, and you know, I would never have the focus of Nabil, which for me, he's one of the best examples ever of an entrepreneur and of how to adapt and survive and stay focused on coffee, but then use that focus to impact a whole different side of society and stakeholders, where, you know, Campomayari influenced the lives he changed, the way he paid salaries, the way he changed people's lives, etc. He created huge impact using his passion of, you know, building the coffee company. And when you look at the legacy he leaves behind with these sons and his granddaughters and grandsons, etc., working in the business and continuing with that vision, it's absolutely amazing and a great example. Okay. I think on my side, I didn't have that focus as he did, but I did have a very good way of delegating and letting people that have the focus grow. Okay. And that allowed me to have my lifestyle, which is, you know, doing things I like and impacting things I like, etc., etc. So, you know, when I made beer, I was super passionate, and there I went. When I did into marketing, that was, you know, I got that going and stayed going. And then when I came into, let's say, my third major venture now with education, that's the one where I see the impact is so much and so big that I'm not going to get bored of this one. Okay. Yeah. And the other side of it is that this is exactly where you need to nowadays have someone leading it that has got values and ethics and thinks out the box, etc., because it's such an industry that is so stagnant and so difficult to break out of, that the challenge for me isn't going to be for a year, 2, 10, 20. It's actually going to be, I believe, a lifetime. Okay. And I think that's what's exciting for me, and that's why I'm so committed to this. But yes, you know, I don't think you need to worry about so much about the business sometimes. I think we worry about the companies a lot. We've got to worry about ourselves. We've got to understand who we are, what are we willing to do, where are we in the time of life. You know, as you have kids, your life changes. As your kids leave, your life changes. You know, so it's a constant changing of where you want to be. And then you've got to be very honest, and you've got to have those right people around you. And when you're losing focus, you've got to find people who have that focus, or you just start to become stagnant, or even more dangerous. You become more bureaucratic, more hierarchy, and your business loses, because a business should stay entrepreneurial its whole life. You know, I promise you, the biggest challenge is to keep it very entrepreneurial, because as soon as it isn't, you're going to spend a lot of money on consultants, on talent scouts, all these people to try and make it entrepreneurial again. And it's almost impossible. It's so difficult once you become this like stagnant big animal, you know, to become agile again and fast, etc., etc. So you as a leader, you've got to know that, and you've got to also show that by example, and trust your people and let them make mistakes, and etc., etc. Right. Because if you just have systems for everything, and you lose the impact of people, it becomes a stagnant company, I believe. So yeah.
Well, so many important insights that you just shared. Tim, just wanted to highlight the importance of having a life plan and understanding that strategy and what you do with your life and with your businesses. A lot of times it's very personal, right? It's very oriented about what is the purpose of the main shareholders of the company. And there is nothing wrong about it. I think it doesn't make any sense to build a business to feel miserable or to do something that we don't believe in. That's usually the opposite. The reason why entrepreneurs start a business, it's because they have a vision that usually nobody believes in, and sometimes they prove them wrong, right? Against all the odds. So let's move to 2015. So you become a shark. You participate in the Portuguese edition of Shark Tank. You are much well known then from the society angle as an investor and as a business angel, and at the same time, of course, as an entrepreneur and founder. How has been this transition for you? I believe that according to your bio, that to your bio at that time, you were not so much well known in the media, and from that time on, you kind of became famous, right? So that's an important transition for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Even before this, I wasn't someone who did interviews or anything. My side was, I love doing business. I love being an entrepreneur. And even if you look at, I would let my CEOs do most of the interviews, and not, it wasn't a focus on me. I think Shark Tank happened by mistake. It really did. I don't know actually how I said yes to it. And then when I said yes to it, I was stuck in it. And
now I need to do it.
Do it, and I enjoyed it a lot. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. If I had to say, am I a better investor or a better entrepreneur? Without a doubt, I'm a better entrepreneur. I like to really be involved. I like to motivate people. I like to run teams. I love to solve problems, and I love to add value. And in investing, it's more difficult, because it doesn't matter if the people are telling you, look, I want you because you got smart money, etc., etc. You can't really influence them. You put in your money, you've got to trust them, and if they moving in the right direction, great, you're getting more value. If they're going in the wrong direction but they don't want to listen, there's not much you can do either there. So, and when you're an entrepreneur, the buck stops with you. So I prefer that. All right. But the experience as an entrepreneur as an investor was really needed at that time. I needed to take a break from being an entrepreneur. I needed to, back people, look at it. And we were lucky with some of the investments, because in the end, it is very much luck, because you can have the right idea, the right product, you can have everything, the off-takers, everything. But if you don't have the right leader, you lose out. Or you can have the right leader, but he's ahead of his time, and you don't, it's not successful either.
Not the right timing and market.
There's a lot of luck involved in it, okay? And that's why, probably 1 in 10 works, okay? Yep. And, I looked at it, and I spent many hours and days and lots of effort and energy trying to make things work. But if your founder doesn't have the mindset, isn't thinking big enough, and he's scared and worried, it's unfair for you to maybe make him jump when he just wants to take little steps. So right. I understood that that's not for me. I don't want to be in that. Okay, so I still back some investments, and I'll still invest in some stuff, but now mostly I would say that I invest in things that are part of their educational ecosystem, where I can understand what I can do for them by being their off-taker. Okay, so that's interesting for me. I think, as I said, it was an amazing experience. I think Portugal needed Shark Tank at that moment. We were going through one more crisis, and there's more to come. But at that time, people weren't believing that you could raise capital. There was very little entrepreneurial thought. We were all worried about losing everything we had, basically. And I think the program gave that you can raise with investors, you can raise with friends and family, et cetera, et cetera. We were really at investing 101, and I think that was really good. And for me, it was good because it opened network. It got me known in Portugal for sure, and I'm grateful for that. It took my focus off maybe me becoming an entrepreneur again earlier, But I think that everything you do builds you up for the right timing. So that definitely was for the right timing. And it gave me more ambition because, being a little bit more well-known also allows me now to start thinking of my next steps. I want to impact education, but I also want to impact Portugal, So it started to put me thinking about how can I impact Portugal, and in one way, I see maybe on the political scene, I want to get involved. I want to do something, What have I got to lose? Do I think I'll be worse than who's there now? I don't, So I think and that I think is where I'm grateful for Shark Tank, because it sort of also made me break that barrier of TV and, interviews, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Right. Mindset is something very important. We were just discussing of the evolution of your role in your first main company, special edition. And now we were just talking about you exploring a new chapter of your life as an investor, looking for maybe a new purpose, a new mission, because your initial company, you did your job and there were other people that you wanted to delegate it moving forward. So it seems that you were kind of an exploratory stage where I can add more value as Tim Veira, where can I feel fulfilled. Something really important on the mindset component here is the way you deal with that media hype. I always saw you, and congrats for that, very humble, very centered, more than humble, centered. So you are confident about your skills and you talk out loud about what you are doing. So it's not that false humility. Let's say you are confident about your skills, but you always stay very centered when you present yourself. So you don't take it yourself too serious. And I invite people to listen to and read other interviews that you did, and we can say that especially the way you just started this show, right? So which is really, really important, and the ones who have some experience know that in order to increase your rate of success, you need to increase much more your rate of failure. And typically people don't deal very well when they see a successful entrepreneur failing a lot. So, and it's normal, right? So it's because you became successful with one business. It doesn't mean that you will keep making it right in the upcoming businesses, because as you said, the odds are super difficult, right?
Yeah, but Mark, you've got to be transparent nowadays, and you've got to be authentic. I think, not just you as a human being, but even your brand or your company. Nowadays, if you're trying to hide behind a false persona, or it's very easy to find. It really is. We've got to a market where there are more people trying to find out negative things about you than positive things. So they look. So if you try to hide, when you make mistakes, you make mistakes. Not every business is going to run well, for sure. Not every partner is going to run well. Not every client is going to be happy. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I think being authentic, and even for a brand, is super important. I think, I invested in a company called Portal de Queixa. And when we invested in it, everybody was super defensive about it. No one wanted to be on Portal de Queixa because it's basically about complaints, your brand being complained online. It's a top 10 site in Portugal of hits. And when companies started to understand that they will always get complaints, it's how they recover from those complaints, how they handle that complaint. And that becomes a positive, because people then go and compare two companies and see which one resolve the complaint better. They started to understand the value of Portal de Queixa, and I think that's it in life. We're going to make mistakes. It's how do you come out of that? How do you solve it? How do you recompensate? How do you build up again? that's what creates even your own brand, you know. And I think we spend a lot of time sometimes trying to cover up, and cover up doesn't work. You know, it always comes up to the top nowadays. You know?
Absolutely. And also sometimes this social pressure that we feel as entrepreneurs, that we all need to build successful businesses. We all need to become investors, to have a holding company, and you know, all this. And I like the way you said, I've tried, or I'm an investor. I still invest in some businesses, but I feel that I can add much more value as an entrepreneur, or even more, I have much more fun as an entrepreneur. And we know that time in life is limited. So why not have an impact and have fun? And yeah, it's always great. And I think that we would say make money and be compensated.
There's lots of entrepreneurs that won't start companies. You know, I've got entrepreneurs in my own company. You know, I've got like our development director. He basically setting up our hubs. He's basically an entrepreneur in his own right. And you know what? My job is to keep him an entrepreneur in his area. You know, we've got another one, Edward Mensch, basically that he's come in to set up BGA Adult School. And that's him being entrepreneur within our company, setting it up, having the problems, sleeping late at night, waking up early, because it's his baby to set up and to run. So, you know, sometimes you know, what do I take away from him? I take away the pressure of the salaries. I take away the pressure of, you know, him being alone and setting it up. But he is being entrepreneur in every right on building value and building and making impact. So that is brilliant, you know. With the Paul Denisias and all that in my team, that's how it works. You know, so there's lots of ways to be entrepreneurial. I think we always get this thing that you've got to be a startup and then you've got to be an investor, et cetera, et cetera. Look, as I said, you know, for me, it's now becoming easier to say no as an investor, because I know that I'm creating. If I take that same dollar and invest in someone's business, or I take that same dollar and put it in PGA, it's going to make more impact with me than it will with someone else. And that's not even being arrogant. That's just being that I'll put more focus into it, into that $1 with me, you know. And I think it takes time and experience to get to know that. You know, once you've got gray hair, you sort of know a little bit more, and you understand that it doesn't. You've got no expectations for others. You really don't, you know. And that's when you really become happy in life, is when you're not here to influence your neighbor, you're not competing with your friends, you're doing what's best for you. And then naturally, you know, you have more success, you're happier, you create more impact, you make more friends, and things seem to just work more naturally, you know. So, but it takes time to learn that, and it takes time to get into that position, because in the beginning we worked on others' expectations. It's wrong, but you need to do it for a while until you learn about it. You know?
So let's go to your third main chapter of your entrepreneurial life. So we just covered your first 20 years building the special edition holding, the media group. Then in 2015, you create the Brave Generation holding for investments with Shark Tank. That's what we have been covering in this second chapter. And now let's go from the Brave Generation holding to Brave Generation Academy, your passion and your current vision for changing the paradigm of education. Could you share a little bit more about Brave Generation Academy, the vision, the purpose, the problem that you are solving?
Yeah, so, you know, the problem with education is that I was experiencing it. I've got 3 teenagers going through education. And when I looked at it, I thought, geez, how can we still be doing the same thing that I did? And it wasn't great for me, and could be much better using technology today, using you know, a few simple things that we have today. We can take the best of online, the best of offline, and create a better product in education. And something more relevant for today. Not perfect, but a lot more relevant for today. And by doing that, we'll have, you know, learners that are happier, learners that are more equipped for today's world and for tomorrow's world. And overall, you know, people that will make more impact going forward. All right. So that's really where it started. And then when I was looking more and more into it, and I read the quote from Elon Musk saying it's easier to put a man on Mars than to change the educational schooling system. I thought, well, you know what, then that's a good challenge. Let me do it. Let me really get into it. And let me look at it as, every good business starts. How do we resolve a problem? What is the problem? How do we fix it with the resources we have? How do I create and bring talent on it to help me do this? How do we stay away from going back into schooling? Because schooling is so powerful. We've done it for so many years that it always makes you go back into traditional ways of thinking. Mm-hmm. So basically, I became everything. In the beginning, I became an admissions officer. I became the curriculum coordinator. I became a learning coach. I became everything in the beginning, just to set up that little standard of where we want to go. Okay. And then slowly I started bringing people on, putting them into those positions. I was operations director. I was expansion director. I was everything. I spoke to the parents, everything, because it really needed to have a mindset that's away from schooling, And I looked at it because every time you even employ a teacher, they want to take it back to schooling. So we'd have to employ teachers that really didn't believe in the schooling system to have them with us. So everything was like a learning experience. What I can say is that it was super exciting because it's probably one of the most difficult industries to get into and to change, but it's probably the most important industry for us to actually look at and change and become relevant in. Okay. So that's how the whole system started. And then when I started seeing that I've got 3 kids who are very different, and it actually started working for them, and I started to see them flourishing. And then, when we got our first independent kids and they started to flourish, and even for the kids that it didn't work, it wasn't a negative for them. It was sometimes they just weren't up to it, or sometimes they just needed more responsibility, and we've learned how to start dealing with that, etc. It was exciting. It was super exciting. And then when I started to see that we believe in education that there's this whole system that you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do that, then you go to university, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not really true. There's lots of ways to different paths to learn and different paths to get to and find what you really want to do. That's when it really became interesting. So in the beginning, all I've done is I took curriculums that exist and did it in a different way, a way that gave you a lot more flexibility, a way there's no more holidays. You go on holidays when you want. You can write exams more often. You don't have to write it once a year, et cetera, et cetera. So that was, the part of changing what existed. But now we're actually starting to bring university to a learner at 16, and he can already start university and start going towards that and finish his degree at 19, and then go to work and have skills already, etc. We're also looking a lot at certifications for those kids who don't want to do university or don't want to study history and geography, but they want to get certified in Google, in Microsoft, in Amazon. They can start to look at that and do that. And maybe at the age of 18, when they've got the certifications, they can start working. And that's also good. Right. And they know they will start again and they will do something else in 3 years' time or 2 years' time. So it's super interesting to see how we can solve problems with the tools we have today. But we're in such a tradition and mindset that we don't do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's been really exciting. And I think from our side, my job has been to give scholarships and to make every kid who wants to do it, like no barriers in it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been really, really exciting to make that happen. Also to bring people that had nothing to do with education into this project has been incredible because, they come with different mindsets, different talents. And when we look at it, we're creating something really special. Also, again, with lots of mistakes, and many failures that we've had to learn from to also grow this venture in the right way. But overall, super exciting to see the growth we've received, the amount of learners we've got, and the impact we're creating in society. And I think in the future, for community, for stakeholders like companies, and in the end, for a country, I think we will start to impact, especially when we start working with the public sector as well, where we can look at what we're doing in a bigger scheme. How can we help public? How can we get into schools? How can we help governments in changing mindsets and using this entrepreneurial system? Right. And actually, it's not even much about entrepreneurial system. It's about finding purpose and passion in learners earlier. That's really what's interesting, because if you ask learners, are they very excited about learning history and geography and biology? The ones that are great do that. But the ones that aren't, we've got to find something else that they are passionate about or do have purpose for. And that's what's exciting with our model. Yeah.
Love it. Amazing, passionate and vision for the present, or to making the future of education in the present, right? So in terms of the size, where are you, Tim, in terms of with the Brave Generation Academy? What is the size of the team?
So we're at 53 BGA hubs now in 8 countries. We've got our first one open in the US, we've got Spain, we've got South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, Kenya, Thailand, now India coming on board. So really exciting. We're close to 1,000 students. We're looking now at using the synergy of having, these hubs that are open in the day for our learners from the age of 12 to 18. And then we're looking at 18 and above being used in the evenings to do more courses, more certifications, university as well, because we managed to do an agreement with 142 universities around the world where our learners can start doing their degrees with us. So they do the first 2 years with us, and then they do their final year at the university. That saves a lot of money to students and parents. And also they get a different experience because they can also change hubs between us. So they can change and do different regions, work with different companies, and then go and do the final year at university, or even do the final year with us. It doesn't matter. Okay. And I think this is where it's getting exciting, is that universities themselves are thinking they have to, basically morph into something different. They need to start offering what's needed. Companies are coming on board because companies are telling us what they need, and we want to provide what they need, but not tell them, listen, we've provided this. Can you now retrain them and teach them again? No, we want to give you to a company already with the skills that's needed. So all this is possible nowadays, and then we've got exciting things like AI coming on board, etc., where our marking gets done, with AI a lot quicker. We're able to really personalize your learning to you using AI, covering the topic you like most, the answers, depending on your answers, the questions you'll get, and everyone's different there. So there's a lot going on at the moment in education. I think it's probably one of the most exciting areas to be looking at and investing, etc. at the moment has got to be education.
Right. So you have almost the 20 years with the special edition group, almost 10 years with the Brave Generation holding, our 3 years with the Brave Generation Academy. How do you see this first decade for the Brave Generation Academy? So if we meet again in 2030, where would you like to be with the Brave Generation Academy?
Yeah, I'd like to have 1 million learners, for sure. And ranging from, 12 all the way for lifelong learning, because that's where we want to concentrate on. We want to make sure that we're there to meet your needs when you need them. Okay. If there's a school on Mars, I really hope that it's VGA. We're brave enough to make that happen, etc. And when I say Mars, it really means, if there's refugee camps, if there's wherever education is needed, we want to be there, and we're able to do it. I also want to, in 20 years' time, I want to be free. I definitely want to be free. So if you want to come to BGA, you come to BGA. If you want to pay, you pay. If you can't pay, don't pay. Okay. That will be our problem in solving. And I think we can do that. Just like, using the internet. We use it. We get our information from it. We do a lot of work on it, etc. We want to do the same with BGA in that regard. So that's where we want to go. I hope I'll leave some kind of legacy using, BGA to do it. I hope that maybe in 20 years' time, one of my 3 kids are helping out at BGA as well, setting up hubs or being a coach or something, because I really believe this is got to be one of the projects that will impact the world the most. I really, really believe it, and I also believe that this will kick off a lot of other educational projects, a lot, and also will make them think differently from the start, and I think that was exciting. It will also help traditional schools to change, and that's a big thing. That's a really big thing. Yeah.
I love it. And your email signature is Be Brave, which is very aligned with what you just shared. You have also even more projects, even an association, the Be Brave Association, also the Teams Garage, an amazing space in Cascais. But what I would do is really invite our audience to go to your website at timveira.com to get to know more, because as you can see, it is impossible to cover all the projects that Tim is involved on in a single podcast. So we need to have Tim back for future episodes, even just to cover just this chapter, the BGA Brave Generation Academy. So let's go to the last segment of the show, Tim, where we ask a couple of quick questions to our guests, kind of a fireside segment. So if you would have the opportunity to have a coffee with yourself, let's say at the beginning of 2004, when you were starting the special edition group, what advice would you offer to your younger team?
Yeah, I think I would have told myself, just keep doing what you're doing, keep making those mistakes, keep making friends, keep making network. I would say listen more, a little bit more, show your, how am I going to say it? Your maturity and your experience by listening. I think listening is really underestimated. And I think when we listen, it gives us, we break barriers by listening. I've learned that when I go into a tough situation and everyone, we know we're there because there's discord, etc. It's a lot better to start by listening until there's nothing else to be said, and then say something, than to start saying a lot and try to create a change. It doesn't happen. But overall, I would say you're on a good track. Don't worry about it, and keep concentrating on what you're doing. I think I wouldn't warn myself about anything I've done that even didn't work. I wouldn't have done it because I think it's all part of all those scars, all those white hairs. It's part of who you are. It's fine.
Right. So I know that you are close to a 30-year entrepreneurial career, according to what I saw on your date of your birthday date on LinkedIn. What are you the most proud of on your journey so far?
No, I think it's that I've created lifelong friends. I've got lifelong friends. I've got lifelong partners. And I'm not talking just about my marriage, which is now 23 years, but I'm talking about partners that I've got for over 20 years that we still invest together. We still do property investments together. We if there's an opportunity, they come in with me. And we've learned that when it doesn't go well, no one's to blame, so right. I think I'm most proud about the people that I've got with me. That's definitely the most proud. More proud than any great investment we've done or success we've got. More than that, it's been the people that I've been with them.
And the final one of this segment is your worst advice ever received.
No, my worst advice is get even. I think lots of people say, oh, you need to get even. I think we waste a lot of energy on trying to get even. I think that energy, if we had to use that energy to move forward and to forget, would be a lot better. Get even doesn't mean you move forward. You know what I'm saying? It means that you just waste a lot of energy trying to get even. And I think I would definitely not give anyone that advice, and I see it in personal lives. I see in people that are getting divorced, best thing is divorce and move forward. Don't get even. With people that their partners haven't worked out in business, move forward. With everything, it's move forward. Because if you keep looking back, you have no vision forward, you're going to hit your head again. And I think that's the biggest advice I would pass on to anyone, especially when you're young. It hurts, and to forgive someone is very difficult. I understand that, but if you don't forgive, you're not going to grow and you're not going to move forward. So it's better move forward. It doesn't mean that it's easy and you're going to love them, etc. No, it just means that you start concentrating again on how to grow your business, how to prove to yourself that you deserve better, and it was what it was, and that's it. Yeah.
Now, some resources that you recommend that you really enjoyed, your favorite book, and can be business or non-business. This is much more to get to know you.
Yeah, I'm a very old school kind of guy. So my favorite. So I never really read a book from start to finish. I sort of get lost halfway, third of the way, etc. But there is a book that I really enjoyed, and I did a lot of underlying, etc., which is Marcus Aurelius. And I think Marcus Aurelius' memoirs and his thoughts are still relevant today. And they're so basic, and that you actually, by reading that, you actually understand the world hasn't changed so much, and we still deal with humans. It's still humans. And I think that for me, that was it's a great book, and it's a great way to keep your feet on the ground.
And you are also a movie producer, something that we could cover, but your favorite movie or series?
Yeah, so again, old school, I would say, is Shawshank Redemption. I love that one, because it's just so clever how he moved forward. He got even by proving himself right, etc., but he didn't blame anyone. He did it himself. I love Jerry Maguire because it's all about, again, values and selling and being human again. So those kind of movies are what I like. Yeah.
And finally, your favorite podcast, excluding this one.
Podcasts. Look, I don't know if it's a podcast, but I love Bill Maher. I think that's a great guy to listen to, and because he's just so, he tells you the truth, and he's in the middle. He doesn't actually, although he's very liberal, he will tell you when the liberals are wrong, and he tells you when the conservatives are wrong. And in a way, I actually see him standing up for common sense. And it's something that doesn't exist a lot today. Common sense has been forgotten. It's not so common. So yeah, I would say Bill Maher. Okay.
Amazing. Tim, thanks so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure to have you on the show, and you are always welcome to come back and share your upcoming chapters of your life, and all the best with the BGA. It's an amazing vision.
Thank you so much, Mark, and keep doing what you're doing there. All right.
Thank you, team. And to our community, thanks for being there. As you see, we keep bringing the best of the best to make your life a little bit easier as you scale up your company. See you soon, and keep scaling.